The movie opens with two kids, Emma and Sissy, making a video together. They reveal that they've been best friends since birth and will be together forever. The scene then suddenly cuts to 12 years later, where we see an adult Sissy, who has become an Instagram influencer and goes by the name Cecilia. She frequently promotes mental health on social media and helps her followers with their life challenges. She's quite successful in this field and has 200,000 followers who adore her. However, in real life, Cecilia is a lonely person, and the validation she receives from her fans is her only driving force and source of happiness.
Sincerely, Cecilia, I think you just saved my life.
In the next scene, she's shopping at a pharmacy when she notices Emma there. It turns out that the childhood best friends eventually drifted apart and haven't spoken in a long time. Cecilia suddenly becomes nervous, while Emma excitedly starts chatting. Emma reveals that she's engaged to a woman named Fran and is getting married soon. Emma then invites Cecilia to her engagement party the next evening. At first, Cecilia is hesitant, but after Emma continues to insist, she finally agrees. They then exchange Instagram handles, and when Emma calls her Sissy, Cecilia corrects her, claiming she now goes by Cecilia. But Emma doesn't think much of it and is just pleased to see that her friend is a successful influencer and doing well in life. After they part ways, Cecilia recalls her and Emma's pact to end up in a nursing home together when they get old. It turns out they had also buried a time capsule back when they were kids. The following evening, Cecilia arrives at Emma's engagement party, where everyone is drinking and singing karaoke. However, she feels out of place since she lacks social skills and rarely leaves the house. Later, a drunk Emma drags her to the stage and introduces her to the audience as her childhood best friend, and both of them sing a song together. But she soon vomits on Cecilia's clothes, resulting in an embarrassing situation. Later, while cleaning her clothes in the bathroom, Fran approaches Cecilia. Cecilia hopes that Fran doesn't mind her coming to the party since they've never met, but the latter assures her it's completely fine. Afterward, Emma apologizes for vomiting on Cecilia earlier. She then expresses her delight to see her after such a long time. Emma also invites her friend to her bachelorette party this weekend, which will take place on the outskirts of the city. Cecilia isn't sure, but upon some insistence, she eventually agrees. Later, while heading home, Cecilia checks Emma's Instagram for videos and pictures from the earlier event. Here, she notices Emma has posted a lot of photos with another girl named Alex, and they seem to be very close. But it turns out that Cecilia and Alex had some beef in childhood, and she doesn't like that girl one bit. Cecilia then returns to the location where they buried their time capsule and retrieves an old box. Upon returning home, she opens the box and finds an old camera they had placed inside. Cecilia plays their childhood videos from 15 years ago, which makes her very happy. The girls were wearing pink wigs in the video, so Cecilia ends up buying a pink dye and colors her hair. The next morning, she packs for the weekend trip and soon joins Emma and her friends. The group also includes Fran and two others named Tracy and Jamie. Cecilia is tasked with driving the car, which she agrees to without hesitation. After traveling for a while, they gradually leave the city and make their way to a secluded area. On the way, Fran suddenly mentions that Alex is already waiting for them at the villa, and Cecilia is surprised and horrified to learn this. She then begins to recall how Alex and her friends used to bully her at school. Distracted, Cecilia accidentally runs over a kangaroo. The group quickly steps outside and discovers that the kangaroo is badly injured and in pain. Fran suggests that they should kill the animal, as it's the humane thing to do. But since no one else dares to do so, Fran herself drives over the poor kangaroo and ends its suffering. Shortly after, the group arrives at a fancy villa in the middle of the forest, where they'll be partying all weekend. The friends enter the house, eager to continue the celebration, but Cecilia remains hesitant and troubled. She secretly observes the group from behind a wall, feeling really out of place and left out. As she watches them dance and enjoy themselves, things take an awkward turn when Alex and Cecilia are confronted with each other. Alex is furious to see her and immediately pulls Emma outside for a private conversation. Cecilia nervously observes them from a distance but can't make out what they are saying. Moments later, a visibly upset Alex hands some pillows to Cecilia, saying that she has to sleep on the couch since all of the rooms are taken. The group then sits down to watch a TV show, and Cecilia feels very out of place and alone. She heads to the bathroom and says some positive affirmations to boost her confidence. After that, she steps outside again and gives the time capsule box to Emma as a pre-wedding gift. The box contains several of their old and memorable items, which makes Emma very happy and emotional. Cecilia then plays their old footage on the TV, and Emma watches with amusement. But moments later, Alex abruptly turns off the TV, claiming that dinner is ready. This makes Cecilia feel bad, and even Emma looks disappointed. Through a flashback, we see that Emma and Alex were also very close as children, and the latter even gave her a matching BFF necklace. In the present, the group is having dinner when Cecilia notices that the two are still wearing those necklaces and feels bad. She then begins chanting confidence affirmations, telling herself that she's loved and special, while the group continues ignoring her. Soon, Emma speaks up and informs everyone that Cecilia is a well-known influencer with 200,000 followers. Fran inquires if she's a model, to which Cecilia responds that she's more like a mental health advocate. The group is impressed by this, except for Alex, who starts calling her Sissy. But Cecilia corrects her, saying her name is not that. Alex then remarks that it is ironic to see Cecilia raising mental health awareness after what she did to her many years ago. She asks if Cecilia is trying to rebrand herself, but the latter feels very bad and leaves the table. Later, while in the bathroom, Cecilia starts reading the positive comments on her Instagram to calm herself. Shortly after, Emma joins her and tries to apologize for what happened. But Cecilia suddenly bursts into tears and says she's trying very hard to heal from the past. Emma understands and says that Alex is a messed up person who has done a lot of bad things over the years. She reminds Cecilia that what happened back then was an accident and that she was a child, she didn't know what she was doing. Emma also urges her to move on from that incident and have some fun in the present. The next morning, when Cecilia wakes up, she finds that everyone is gone. She then discovers a letter from Emma, who says they're hanging out by a waterfall and has also drawn a map for her. Cecilia quickly starts heading toward the given location. When she finally arrives, she hears them gossiping about her and hides behind a tree. She overhears Alex calling her a psychopath, and even the other group members appear to be upset that Emma would invite such a weirdo to her bachelorette party. In a flashback, we see that after they buried the time capsule, Alex taunted Cecilia by claiming that Emma is her best friend. She mentioned how Emma didn't even invite Cecilia to her birthday party, so Emma explained that there were going to be other girls at the party, and since Cecilia didn't get along with them, she didn't invite her. This deeply hurt Cecilia, and Alex began to make fun of her sadness. In the present, Emma asks Alex to forget about the incident, pointing out that she was the one who bullied Sissy. But Alex doesn't care and tells the group about something bad Cecilia did to her back then. This shocks everyone, and Jamie comments how ironic it is that Cecilia preaches mental health while having done such horrible things in the past. The group then decides to leave for a picnic in the woods, but Alex stays behind, visibly upset. Meanwhile, Cecilia recalls how Alex and her friends had mocked her back then by chanting, "Sissy the Sissy." Moments later, Alex notices Cecilia hiding behind the tree and urges her to come out. This prompts our anxious heroine to slowly approach her and apologize for their fight in the past. She expresses regret for what happened and wishes to make amends with her. However, a furious Alex tells her to drop the act and calls her a psychopath. She then takes Cecilia's phone and begins recording, demanding that she confess to her followers what she did. When Cecilia stays silent, Alex begins recording herself, claiming that their favorite influencer is a psychopath. She then reveals that Cecilia once attempted to murder her and displays a scar on her face as proof. Worried, our protagonist tries to grab her phone, and the two end up in a struggle. Alex attempts to upload the recorded video on Instagram, but a desperate Cecilia stops her by hitting her head with a rock. This causes Alex to collapse to the ground. We then see a flashback of their childhood when a furious Cecilia stabbed Alex in the face with a garden spade. She also reassured herself that it wasn't her fault. In the present, she believes that Alex is dead and drags her body into the woods while crying. But as soon as she removes the BFF necklace from Alex's neck, her mood suddenly changes. She then records a live session on Instagram as if nothing has happened. Cecilia informs her followers about how she has been enjoying nature and meditating. Just then, Jamie shows up, so Cecilia rushes to hide in a panic. He appears very drunk and needs to pee, and he unknowingly pees on top of Alex's grave. Worried about Alex's body being discovered, Cecilia comes out of hiding and diverts Jamie's attention. Seeing her covered in dirt, he asks what happened, and she simply states that she tripped and fell. Cecilia then tries to convince him to leave, but Jamie suddenly slips and uncovers the grave. Terrified, he begins to run, but a worried Cecilia chases after him. She eventually corners him on a cliff and claims that Alex was the one who attacked her, and she just acted in self-defense. However, Jamie argues that she could have come to them or called the police. Cecilia tearfully reveals that she overheard them gossiping and thought they would never believe her. Soon, Tracy arrives in the distance and calls out for Jamie. But then, Cecilia suddenly pushes him off the cliff, resulting in his death. Elsewhere, in another part of the forest, Emma is searching for Alex and calling her phone. Emma eventually hears Alex's phone ringing, and it's in the bag in the stream. Unfortunately, as she reaches out to grab them, she's swept away by the strong current. Meanwhile, Cecilia is panicking over Jamie's death, so to calm herself, she begins reading the positive comments again. The scene then shifts to the evening, where we see Fran sleeping at the picnic spot and Emma finally reaching the shore. Meanwhile, Cecilia returns to the villa and notices Tracy alone, watching TV. She then unexpectedly begins injuring herself with a stick and enters the house, informing Tracy that Alex attacked her in the woods. Tracy feels sorry for her, so she helps with her wounds and prepares a bath for her. Suddenly, Cecilia begins to cry, and Tracy comforts her. She says that maybe Alex wanted to get back at her for what happened in the past. But this only infuriates Cecilia, who insists that she has done nothing wrong. Here, a terrified Tracy tries to leave, but Cecilia suddenly grabs her and screams that she's a good person. Tracy tries to calm her down. Right when this happens, after being pushed, Tracy's hair gets sucked up by the drain. Things get worse when the pull pressure opens up her head, and she ends up passing away. Back in the forest, Alex awakens from her shallow grave, and it turns out she was only unconscious before. Elsewhere, Emma is still searching for Alex but ends up getting lost in the woods. In another scene, Cecilia is trying to escape the place in her car, right when she comes across Fran. The latter asks for a ride to the villa, and Cecilia has no choice but to oblige. While driving, Fran asks where Emma is, but Cecilia rudely responds that if she loves her so much, it's her job to know that. Cecilia suddenly starts speeding, and then admits that her heartbreak is that she and Emma couldn't grow old together as planned. A terrified Fran keeps telling her to slow down, but she doesn't listen. While speeding, she abruptly presses the brake. Soon, when she regains consciousness, Fran is not by her side, and it turns out she was thrown out of the car through the front mirror. A disoriented Cecilia steps out of the car, where she notices Fran gravely injured and in pain. The poor girl begs for help, but Cecilia says that she'll end her suffering as it's the humane thing to do. She then gets inside the vehicle and runs over Fran, crushing her head. Elsewhere in the forest, Alex is crawling on the ground with all her strength when she notices Jamie's phone in the distance. She uses the phone's light to check her surroundings, and is horrified to find Jamie's mutilated body nearby. Therefore, Alex quickly calls 911 for help, but due to her head wound, she's unable to speak properly and simply screams. The officer manages to trace the call, but this is when the phone suddenly dies. Meanwhile, Cecilia returns to the villa in search of Emma, but she's nowhere to be found. This causes Cecilia to lose her mind, and she starts acting erratically. She begins laughing and hitting herself with her phone, resulting in bruises and bleeding. After that, she opens her Instagram and goes live, explaining how a woman named Alex murdered her friends and is now after her. Moments later, she loses consciousness. In the next scene, Emma returns to the villa and is shocked to find Cecilia bloody. She quickly searches the house for any first aid kit. But then, during this time, Emma comes across Tracy's dead body under a bed, so Cecilia explains that Alex went crazy and tried to kill everyone. However, Emma notices the BFF necklace on her neck and realizes that she's lying, but she pretends to believe what her friend is saying. She then suggests they call the police to report Alex, but Cecilia stops her, saying they need to leave. Following this, Cecilia tries to grab her hands, but a terrified Emma refuses her, and she slips and hits her head on the floor, knocking herself out. When Emma comes to her senses a while later, she finds herself tied to a chair. Their childhood video is playing on the TV, and Cecilia seems to have completely lost her mind. It turns out that she has dyed Emma's hair pink, and Cecilia claims that they're going to recreate their childhood video, and leaves the room to get nail polish. And so, Emma takes advantage of the situation and, after some struggles, manages to cut her ties using her BFF necklace. She then launches a surprise attack on Cecilia as soon as she returns. This escalates into a scuffle, but the psycho gains the upper hand by stabbing her friend with a pair of scissors. After both of them calm down, Emma asks what happened to the others. But Cecilia just cries and says that it was an accident and she didn't mean to hurt them. Upon hearing this, Emma has finally had enough and calls Cecilia a psychotic monster. She even tosses the time capsule box into the fire, destroying it. This upsets Cecilia, and she begins to cry like a baby. While she's distracted, Emma manages to call the police and urges them to come immediately. Upon realizing this, Cecilia grabs a broken vase and attacks her for hurting her feelings. The two get into an intense fight, but Emma manages to gain the upper hand this time. She brutally beats Cecilia and nearly kills her. But unfortunately, Alex shows up, and, because she's disoriented from her head injury, she attacks Emma due to her pink hair. She repeatedly hits her own best friend until her face is completely disfigured. Even worse, Cecilia manages to capture this moment on her phone. Soon, Alex hears Cecilia say thanks, and she finally realizes that she has hit her best friend. Alex is horrified at what she has just done, and a cop shoots her from behind to stop her violence, instantly killing her. After that, he approaches the injured Cecilia and assumes that she must be the victim. The cop asks her to stay tight and says he'll get help for her. In the final scene, we see that some time has passed, and Cecilia has returned to her life as an influencer. She has become even more famous than before. With 10 million Instagram followers, she speaks with her fans and explains how she survived the Alex massacre by taking her own advice and staying strong. It turns out she has even written a book about this experience, which has apparently become a bestseller. Thus, we reach the end of this film. Thanks for watching. You can like this video to support us. Don't forget to subscribe for more content. See you in the next video. Goodbye.